Yeah, I'm sorry it's late, but Maze in the Mind episode 4 coming right at you. Okay, so this week I wanted to talk about some of my personal favorite and most useful things in my hobbying kit. And I'm not talking about necessarily, it could be anything. Anything you find super useful. And here's a couple of my favorite things that I think has a lot of applications and I use over and over again personally. One is wire or paper clips. They're good for pinning. They're good for making little wires or like little wires or stuff sticking out on basing. They're one of my favorite things to use and it's so helpful when you're creating something. You can wrap it around something and kind of make it like a coiled wristband. They can end up being very very useful. They can also use it as a if you get a strong enough wire, you can also use it as a stable center for if you're going to sculpt something. You can use it kind of almost like a skeleton. I actually have plans for when I get further along with some of my uh, orcs. I have a plan for. I've got a little grot with like his own little jetpack that he just kind of looks completely out of place. I'm gonna have him spinning out of control, and to mount that, I'm gonna have some sturdy wire, and around that, I'm gonna wrap some like torn up cotton balls. Make it look like a smoke trail and like just spinning out of control off of one of my orc bases, and it's just gonna be a little funny little touch that I'm gonna throw into there on my storm boys. But that's my personal opinion though that I think wire is a really really good item to have in your hobby kit. Wire, paper clips, it's so useful. Another one of my favorite items, and this is weird, it's a paint. This is particular paint color that I find extremely useful. For me, I have to say like a really really light color, really really light kind of bonish white. For me personally, like Vallejo Game Color Bone White or Screaming Skull or something like that. For me, it's just a wonderfully useful color. I use it to highlight greens when I want to do my orcs, do a little bit fleshy, a little like it's rubbed down, though they don't look like they're plants, even though I know they're supposed to be fungus, sort of. But I think it gives them a little bit more fleshy look, and it's really useful. It's really good if you want more of like a dull weathered red that's not too doesn't end up being too pink. Uh, I use it for so many colors. It's just it can add a little warm touch to anything when you want to highlight because it's not so off white that it's ruining the color you're working with, but it's not so white it's just making it brighter. It's just one of my favorite, absolute favorite items or like paints to use for highlighting. I mean, it's good for making bone. It's good for highlighting stone. It's just very so useful. I mean, I mix it into flesh colors all the time. I I can think of very few paints where it mixes well with it. It doesn't mix well with it. So for me, that's one of my favorite things. Another one, a really really crappy brush. And I know what you're thinking. Well, why is a crappy brush so good? Well, a crappy brush. Well, first of all, it can be there, so you don't have to use a good brush for something. Let's say you're wanting to apply like uh, you know liquid mask. You want to use a bad brush for that because it's really hard to get that stuff out of the bristles. I mean, you have to dissolve it with like an enamel dissolver, and it's you don't want a good brush for that. Also, bad brushes are really good for dry brushing. Bad brushes are really good for stippling. Bad brushes are really good for base coating because you can do a sloppy base coat with them and they'll get good coverage and you can do it really fast. I use I use bad brushes for applying decals because a bad brush can help smooth it out without ruining the decal. I can use a bad brush for weathering. It's really, really good for picking up pigments and stuffing them in there without having to ruin a nice brush. I mean, these are just. I mean, that's three of my personal favorite items in my own collection. And I want to know what everyone else uses, what everyone else's favorite items in their hobbying tool, amongst their hobbying tools are. Because maybe you can give me some ideas for things that I maybe have never tried before. Just share. This is one of those things I really want people to share on, because something you find useful, someone else might find useful, and if someone else finds useful, imagine how much better you can make the hobby for them. I know that a lot of wargamers have learned a lot from historical hobbyists. A lot of the weathering techniques and like metal techniques have come from things that were developed in war models to make them look more realistic. Because it wasn't something that we were necessarily concerned about before when we were working on Warhammer 40k or fantasy models, because at the time we thought of them as more cartoony, but we've gravitated to that more realistic look. So please come here and share anything that you think is really, really useful in your hobbying kit. I don't care how silly you think it might sound. I know when it comes to sculpting, I know there are some people who really, really love to use tin foil to help fill out. It's aluminum foil now, not tin, but help fill out the basic structure of what they're doing. And when you do that, if you get it in there packed really good, it's a really good base with like green stuff, so you don't have to use a crap ton of it. Almost use a bad word there. But anyways, yeah, please come share. I'm sorry this was so late. I need to get back on a regular schedule. Part of it was I was trying to do this with someone else, and we just never worked out a good time to meet and talk. And another reason was I've been really busy taking care of my son, and he's been having some issues with school. So also the holidays picking up. So it's been pretty exciting. Also, I spent some time making his Halloween costume for Halloween, so I just been really, really distracted. I apologize that if anyone's been anticipating this and it's come out this late. I really do apologize. But I should be back on schedule, and next week, expect episode 5. In episode 5, we are going to actually discuss what there is to love about Blood Angels. That's right. I'm going to actually, on occasion, do episodes purely about specific armies in specific games. And hopefully other people are interested in talking about what we like about Blood Angels, and we give a little bit of a backstory about Blood Angels ourselves as well. Anyways, I will see you then. Take care.